When the particle stops hitting the area, the sound stops. And certain areas must be touched with certain colors of particles. But what's really great about it, especially on the iPhone, is as you move these pieces around on the screen, you really feel like there's an analog quality to the music. Even though you're just waiting for those bars to fill up, you're watching the particles move through the space and very anxious about each particle reaching its destination. And it feels, I don't know, it just feels special. It's very different from what you would expect from a music puzzle game. If you described what you just saw as a music puzzler, you would be doing it, I think, a little bit of injustice. This game is almost the exact opposite of Auditorium in that it's not very analog at all. It's very digital and vector graphics-based game, also made for the iPhone. It's recently won an award at the Indie Games Festival Independent Games Festival in California, and the creator has real trouble describing what it's about or what it means. And the closest thing I've heard him say is that it's about planets trying to thrive in space. So this is the trailer that he made for the game to sell it, and I just grabbed it from YouTube. But the thing you should know about it is that it's a multi-touch game, and that he really does sort of execute on this digital retro feel. Gives this game an otherworldly feel. They make it feel like it's from space or from another place. It doesn't feel real, naturally real. And the lively sound and behavior of this environment give it a real charm. It's actually quite cute, even though it's just these little circles moving around in space and they bloop out of existence. You really feel kind of charmed by them. But the multi-touch component, especially games, there are some games where you have to move 4 circles
in a very tight space, it feels very precarious. When they touch each other, they go, when their edges touch, and then they become smaller. So you really become very sensitive to the amount of space that an individual planet or circle is taking up on your screen. And when they pop into existence, you immediately feel worried that they might hurt each other by accident. So it's a really, really charming game. And the designer is very, I think, sometimes very pressed to describe what it means, because it's mostly about this feeling, I think, of wanting to help. This game is actually quite famous in the independent community in the States. My friend Jonathan Blow made it. He and I curate a festival, or sort of a session every year at the Game Developers Conference, where we show experimental gameplay. And many of the games I've shown already were featured in it over time. His personal project is a game in which you play with time. And I would say they're time-bending puzzles, or maybe mind-bending. They're quite difficult. But it's also a romantic story. It's a story about a man who's trying to get back to the past to save a princess, or make up for a mistake that he made with the princess a long time ago. And it's actually quite touching, even though the mechanics of the game are about moving in time. The story is about what if you could go back in time and change things? What if you didn't have to pay for the mistakes that you made? It's much more of an allegory about relationships and people and the test of passing of time, which, as we all know, is unstoppable. Thinking about mechanics with the feeling of playing through space. And the way that the game plays out, it gives these simple rules about moving forward and backwards in a platformer much deeper meaning. Everything moves in time with your movement in some levels. And I think that's a very deep thing to think about. What if every movement you made change in the world, and then when you move backwards or made mistakes, that also may change in the world, and you think about your actions that way. It becomes a very metaphysical way of thinking about your life. And as a result, it gives you a real sense of reward, because it's so difficult to think this way. When you're moving through that platform space and you play these games, and you figure out one of the puzzles, you feel really smart. You feel quite intelligent playing it. I think that's why all the reviewers love it. This is a strange game from my friend Kata.